Hello everyone, and welcome to my corner of the world. Today I have a technique to share with you. In fact, there's two techniques on this card. The first is to create this faux tile technique, and then the other is to just share with you and remind you how to colour up ribbon to match your projects. So I'm going to start with my scoreboard and a piece of cardstock, and I'm going to share with you how to score to get these lovely diamonds. Now there are obviously easier ways that you can do them with squares, and I'll show you a couple of examples toward the end, but I just thought, well, I might as well show you the most complex way, and then the easier ways will fall into place. So I have my piece of Whisper white cardstock, basic white cardstock, and this is just the normal weight, not the thick version. And what I'm going to be doing is I'm going to be putting in my score lines, and I'm going to be putting in diagonals. So my scoreboard has got like straight vertical lines, so this is the technique for being able to use it with diagonals. So you're going to get your scoring tool, and you're going to choose any of the markers here, and choose one with a whole number like 4, 5, 6, 7, because it's easier to remember when you do that. So all I'm going to do is put my tool in here, and I'm just going to slide it down a ways, and then I'm going to put the corner of my card in the little slot that is on the 5-inch. That's my groove that I'm in, and then I'm just going to move this up and start again. So if you miss your place, you can still do it again. Find yourself. And I'm just going to move up my tool until the corner hits that 5-inch groove. And then I'm just going to take up to there and score. And you'll want to do it a couple of times because you need a fairly deep groove. Then you're going to move across however far spaced you want your score lines to be. Now, because I've got a slimline card here, I decided that I quite like the idea of diamond shaped tiles. So I'm moving mine over 1 1/4 inches. So 5 inches plus 1 1/4 is 6. So I'm putting my tool in at the 6. And then I'm going to slide down again, and another 1 1/4 will give me 7 1/2. So making sure I hold everything tight, I'm going to bring it down there. So that's one side. Now the other side, I am 5 minus 1 1/4 is 3 3/4. So I've got my tool up at 3 3/4, and then I'm going to 3 3/4 minus 1 1/4 is 2 1/2. So I'm going to put 2 1/2, and I'm going to put my other score line in there. So you can see I've got my score lines. Now I want them going the other direction. So I'm going to turn my card round like this, and I'm going to put my tool in at the 5 mark again and bring it down, and then pop my corner in, and then slide my tool back up so that my corner is hanging over that 5-inch groove, and then I'm going to start at the top again. So your first score is always like corner to corner. That's the easy way to remember. So 5 plus 1 1/4 is 6 1/4, and then 7 1/2 is another 1 1/4 on there. And as you can see, I am putting quite a bit of weight behind those scores, and I'll show you in a minute why that is important. So I got my 3 3/4 again, and then finally 2 1/2. So Now, if you're worried that maybe your card moved, all you need to do is to go back to your starting point, which in my case is 5, bring it down, pop that at the 5 there in that little groove, and then back up here. And then I can do my last one at 2.5. Okay, so there's my score lines in my elongated diamonds. Now, just to make it clear what I was talking about, when I start here, you'll see there's little grooves in the top here. So I just had mine at the 5 here and just drew it down, and then I just made sure that the corner of the card went in that 5, and then I was able to get corner to corner. Right, we are going to do a bit of stamping now on our lovely piece of beautifully scored cardstock, and I am using the Eden's Garden stamp set for this. And I like this one because I wanted like one big image and then some little ones, and this has got it. And also it's got some nice greetings that I can use on this card as well. I am using Blackberry Bliss, one of my favorite of the darker colors, and this particular stamp set is what's known as a distinctive stamp set, which means that when you ink it up, it takes ink at different densities, so, excuse me, so that it's not going to be like a solid blob of ink. It's going to have lots of lovely detail in it. Right, so I'm going to ink. You can actually see how it's taken the density of the ink there. So I'm going to ink and stamp, and I'm going to do 3 times. And you can see what I mean about the variations in the colour, and it makes it so much more lifelike. Okay, so I've done that one 3 times, and then I'm going to go in with my next biggest. So you always start with your biggest stamp, and then you go in from your biggest stamp. So this is my next one, and I'm just going to pop it in a few places like that. And then my next stamp is a little smaller image. So we're going to ink up and we're going to fill in the gaps. Now, I don't want any of my images overlapping, because this is actually, as we said, a tile technique, and it just looks better if the images are sort of individual and not crossing over. Now, I think I might just get one more in there, like that. Now it's easy to see why you need to have nice deep scores, and that's because the ink obviously doesn't go down in the dip, and it makes it look like grout lines, which just enhances the the tile effect. Now I'm going to set that aside for a few moments to dry before I do the next step. And while I'm doing that, that's drying, I'm just going to work a little bit on my embellishments. Now, I have used the Designer Tags dies, and I've used this on a couple of other projects before. I'll just show you this one quickly. This is a little box I made, which uses the same elements without the butterfly that we're using on this card. And I've already cut them out to save a little bit of time. So this is the die to cut out the label, and then the die to cut out the little sort of sprig of sort of leafy bits, I'm thinking that is. Now I'm going to pop my greeting on the tag, and I'm going to set it at an angle because I don't want to have to worry about getting it level and central there. And then I'm just going to get my other smallest little piece and stamp, and I'm just going to kind of cover the corner like that. So there's my decoration on that piece. And I have my envelopes. Now the Slimline envelopes I'm using are from the Slimline envelope pack. And let me see, how many do you get in there? Okay, so you get 15 envelopes, and you get 5 of each color. So you get 5 white, 5 Sahara sand or smoky slate. I think that's smoky slate. And then 5 of the soft succulent. Or is it mint macaron? I apologize for the mint macaron. And they're really cute because they have some pretty printing inside each one that goes down inside there. So it just makes them really special. And for this one, I'm just going to do a little bit of stamping on the edge there, like that. And there's my stamping all done. So I can put away my inks. Now I promised to show you another technique, and that is how to colour your ribbon. And I have got a piece of the basic white crinkle seam binding, and this is lovely. It's lovely and soft, and it makes beautiful bows. And then it's lightweight, so if like me you send a lot of cards, particularly overseas, then you're looking to keep the weight down. Now this is of the Rich Razzleberry stamping marker. Now although I use Blackberry Bliss on my ink for my card, the Blackberry Bliss marker was just a tinsy bit dark for my liking, so I went with a sort of a shade brighter. Now you can use Stampin' Blends to do this, and I have got videos explaining how to do that, but I just decided we would use something different for this video. And all I'm doing is using the edge of the brush end of the marker, and I'm just, as you can see, just gently stroking it down. And I'm using my silicone matte because the ink will wash off of this really easily afterwards, and it won't get on my work surface. Now you don't have to worry about doing both sides. This is thin enough that the ink will go through. And there we have a lovely piece of coloured ribbon. And I'm going to set that aside to dry for a few moments. It doesn't take very long, but I don't want it to smudge onto my card when I get there. Our next step is we're going to glaze our tile. So we're having really posh tiles because they're going to be lovely, beautifully glazed. And for this, I'm going to need my Versamark ink pad. Now this is well loved, well used, and I'm using it to just basically show you that you don't have to worry if it starts to get a little bit discoloured. This has got a bit dry on one corner as well, but as long as it's nice and juicy, it will work perfectly. I am also going to need my tray here for my from my embossing additions kit, and I'm using clear embossing powder. So the first thing we are going to do is we're going to pounce the Versamark all over the top of my card. Now you want to just go up and down, just press up and down. Don't slide it because it might smear your ink. And just make sure you make special attention of the edges and the corners like that. And then we're going to get our embossing powder. And I'm going to sprinkle some toward the center and then just tap it down like that so that it runs the whole length of the card. And then I'm going to turn it round and do the same thing so I get the other side of the card. And then a good old tap from behind like that. And then you can, I don't know if you can see, but it looks a weeny bit dull now because that powder's on there. Pop that back in. And now we're going to fix it. And this is magic. When I chose to use this colour, I was a weeny bit disappointed in what it looked like until I embossed it, and you'll see in a minute what I'm talking about. So I've got my embossing heat gun, and I'm just going to pop it on, use my tweezers to just stop it flying away. I'm just going to move it around gently, and you should start to see it's actually changing colour. It's going to a much brighter, vibrant colour. And I'm going to hold it up so that you can see. Can you see that where it's melting? How the colour is popping even more. So we need to work our way round. Don't forget those corners and the edges. Sometimes when I'm doing this technique, I forget and I focus on those flowers, and all the edges are still uncooked, and the powder will feel all gritty. And I think you can really see how the colour is changing now. Isn't that gorgeous and delightful? Ooh, just love it. And once it all starts to melt, you can actually move your gun over and watch the melting take place. And to check it out, you can just hold it up to your light, and you can see where you've got, if you haven't got anything cooked. I think it's not cooked there because it's not shimmering. And I can see here that I missed some when I put the Versamark on. So I'm going to remedy that straight away. I'm going to recook this bit for a few moments. And I'm going to give this a second dose of embossing powder. I found that this gives you such a much better effect. Really, really glossy. And if you did miss any bits on the first pass, you're sure to catch them on the second pass. So again, we just repeat and put the Versamark. If you've not come across Versamark, this is a super sticky clear ink, and it's known as watermark ink, but I don't use it for watermarking. I use it for sticking down embossing powder. So again, in the middle, and let that curl down and cascade down. Little tap on the back to get any excess off. And then we're going to do again. Now this time we're not going to see the colour change, but you'll see the actual colour coming through as the embossing powder melts. All right. I'm just going to cook this up again. And because this card is quite warm, the embossing powder is turning really quickly. And I'll show you in a moment how lovely and glossy. And it certainly is well worth doing the extra layer of embossing on there, just to give you that lovely smooth gloss that we get on glossy tiles. Yeah. You see, isn't that lovely? It really is. Super duper gorgeous. All right. Now, my card is a little bit bowed, so I am going to go and put some heat on it from the back, and it'll flatten it out. Ooh. There we go. Now, because this has got a lot of work on it, I'm going to use some double-sided tape to attach it to my card base, because I don't want it falling apart when it comes out of the envelope, when the recipient gets it. That would be horrendous. And then I'm just going to use my bone folder to just smooth that down. No, I don't press too hard because I don't want to disturb any of my lovely grooves that I have put in for my tiles. I'm going to just now pull back a little of my tape on each corner like that. Now I've got my piece of Blackberry Bliss and cardstock, and I'm going to attach it like this. Make sure it's centered. And there we go. Now, all the dimensions for this card, the supplies and the cutting and everything, cutting instructions, are going to be on my blog, and you can find my blog, a link to it at the bottom of or beneath this video, and it will take you exactly to this blog post. It won't take you to anything else, so that you can just go straight there and have a little look at this. Now we're going to put the piece of ribbon around. So I've got a piece that's about, I don't know, 9 or 10 inches, and I'm going to just roughly cut it in half, and I'm going to attach it to the back of my card. You see, despite the fact that I've used rich razzleberry on this piece of ribbon, when you look, it's actually not far off at all of the Blackberry Bliss that I'm using it on. Right, so we've got a piece of the other side, like that. And just use my bone folder to just smooth that out. Make sure I've got a really, really good adhesive. And we're going to add some dimensionals. I'm going to put one in each corner. And you can see I'm using up my outside pieces. I'm also going to put a couple in the middle, just to support. It's quite a long card, so we just need to put something just to give it some extra support. Just take the backing off of those. Okay, and then we're going to add it to our card base. So this is Smoky Slate. Just give that a good burnish. And then we're going to pop this on, just center it up. Press firmly. And then I have my decorative pieces. So with this piece, I'm going to fold it in half, and I'm just going to poke it through the hole in my label tag. And then I'm going to bring it up underneath the ribbon on the card. And then I'm just going to tie a single knot, as like that. Trim off my ends. There. Now I want this to be at a saucy angle, so I'm going to make sure that this is caught underneath like that with a glue dot, and then this little piece here that has, it's kind of like a little spray of, I'm not sure what to call them. I don't know if it's like a spray of leaves or a little spray of flowers, but I'm just going to bring that in, coming down like that. We're going to have a few pearls. Now then, I mislaid my pearls and I had them here. Okay. Oh, there they are. I'm just going to pop a few pearls on here. I think I'll pop one up there and one down here. Well, I'm not at all sure where to put the other one, so maybe I'll just pop him over there. And there we have our faux tile effect. I promised I'd share another couple with you. So this one I did using the squares. So I just, because this is a smaller piece of cardstock, I did 1 inch. So I just scored at like 1, 2, 3, turned it round, 1, 2, 3, 4. And then this is stamped with the Like Friends of Seashells stamp set and Night of Navy. And then I did this one, which is Forever Fern. And again, I used the same score pattern. And this time I used Mossy Meadow and Granny Apple Green to get that effect. Well, I do hope you've enjoyed this this technique. I was inspired by Gail Ellis, but as all stampers, we put our own little twist onto it, and so that's what I've brought you today. If you've enjoyed this video, please go ahead, give me a thumbs up. Any remarks or comments that you have, I'd love to read them. And if you don't subscribe to my channel, perhaps you'll go ahead and do that today. Well, thank you for your time. I appreciate it. Bye for now.